Or you want me to start it?
No, I'll start. Hi, everyone. To the WNG meeting for the month of June. I would like you all to mute your camera so Rajiv doesn't get disturbed. So today he will show you the steps of post-processing a wildlife photograph.
And how not to post-process also.
Yeah, and how not to process, because the important thing in wildlife photography is that the processing has to be very mild. It can't be overly done. It can't be overly saturated. It's very important because in wildlife you must bring out the natural beauty of the park, of the animal and the surroundings. So I am sure Rajiv also will agree and will show you how to do that. So we will, over to you, Rajiv, to do the process. You can share the screen.
So basically, yeah, you can mute the mic if you're just listening. But if you have a question, even during the because don't wait till the end because otherwise, if you have a question, then and there you can ask me while I'm doing it. The main reason I actually told Hiranti, let's do this because I see like some small things to tweak to get a and also to select post processing. Plus I want to tell like out of a series of images what to choose also. So that being said, let me just share the screen. Hold on. Share screen. Okay. So to start off, I'm going to use the software called Adobe Lightroom. If you all don't have Lightroom at the moment, it's okay. Most programs have the basic settings for post processing, whatever you are using. If you need help on getting Lightroom and all, of course, you have to get the licensed product officially. But if you need any help, just message me after the session and I'll tell you. But so basically, it's a very easy program. So I will teach you from the start how I work. So once I take the photographs and I come back home and I connect to the computer and I basically store the images on my hard disk. So this is how I start. So normally I just basically we have to go to file, go to import photos and videos. So we have to import the photos into Lightroom. So that's basically the thing. So then I basically in this you select the folder wherever you have saved it. So I'm just saved a bunch of raw images under the title PSSL for this, and then you click import. Then it will import, as you can see, right? So basically what I want to teach is besides the post processing itself, it's about also choosing out of a scene, because normally when we shoot in burst mode. So when you shoot in burst mode, we might take a series of movements of an animal and we need to know what to choose from. So that's just a little bit of a basic which I want to also teach. So I'll start with the sequence of this leopard. So you double click on this picture. So this is taken in Kenya, and this leopard is coming down the tree. So what you do is first I go to there's a tab here called develop, right? Let me just minimize this screen. Okay. So when you go, so what I do is I don't do a lot of things. So firstly I choose which is the best photograph. It's always the most important thing. Basically, when you go to the develop tab, right, when you go to the develop tab, you can first see so many settings. So you can play around with it, but first you have to choose the correct photograph. So now when you're looking at this leopard, you can see in some of the shots there are shadows. So personally, like I would never use a shot which has these kind of shadows, because it just distracts you. It's not a clean shot. So I've seen, like, even during the critiquing sessions, there are shots where the animal is partially in the shadows, but if he's moving out, always try to get a clean shot. So here, now this shot is clean. This shot is also clean. So firstly, you have to learn to choose the shots, and you can zoom in and see how sharp it is. So this shot is very sharp. So I will choose to post process this. So this is a very unusual angle. And first, what I do is I always you have to crop it properly. So I see now, just to give an example on cropping, you have to be very subtle in that as well. Use the rule of thirds when you're cropping. So these lines will help you to direct you on that. So what I would normally do in this is take out anything which is distracting. So you can see the grass at the bottom is distracting in this frame. So I will actually crop it like this. So how you angle it is up to you. You can actually even rotate it like that, but then it crops too much. So what I do is I would do a slight crop, and I want to show basically if the animal is in movement, I want to show that the a little bit of space in the direction which the animal is moving in. So I just move it a little bit to the back like that, and I crop it. Okay, so now cropping is done for this shot. So the way you crop it, of course, is up to you, but usually if an animal is sideways is moving, I crop it like this. I will show you how you do a front facing animal separately, but so like that. So then what are the next steps? So here the basic adjustments are shown here: exposure, contrast, highlight, shadows, whites, blacks. So I first look at the exposure. So for me, this is a little bit overexposed. You can see in the histogram also above here, you can see it's a little bit overexposed. You reduce the exposure slightly. You don't overdo it. If you overdo it, it becomes too dark. And you go the other way, see, it becomes too much. So it's basically the brightness of this photograph. So you just adjust it by gauging how natural it looks and how pleasing it is to the eye, right? Then I don't adjust too much the contrast, a little bit. So always look at the measurement. So I just do plus 12, plus 15 maximum, or maybe even plus 5. So I just adjust in my minute quantities. I don't do anything with the highlights or shadows or anything, because this is, for me, it's in clean light. Then you come down, you have a thing called clarity. So this actually increases some of the detail, some of the micro contrasts, which separate the, you can see when you increase the detail, but that also you don't overdo it. Now if you overdo it, it becomes artificial. So you just do, I increase it slightly. One of the things we have to be very careful as wildlife photographers is handling the saturation. I notice a lot of people love using saturation to make it look very artsy looking. Like this kind of level is really too much. Just giving you an example. For me, you clearly know this is a very artificial looking photograph. So what basically, you just, saturation has to be used very moderately. So you look at this measure here, the plus or minus, and just do it very slightly. So about plus 10, even then I'm not too happy because it's too artificial. And the vibrance also, just do it a little bit like that. So everything, basically the secret to doing a post-processing a wildlife photograph is subtlety. So then I don't really play around with any of these colors unless I really have to. We don't really use them. I know a lot of people love using it, and also even sharpness. So if just zoom in and check how sharp the photograph is. General, now this of course is relatively sharp, but if you want to increase a little bit of the detail, but do it very subtly. Don't overdo it. And if you increase a lot of sharpness, you're going to get a lot of noise also. Noise is so I'll show you. See, can you see the noise in the background? You get this dots. So this is not desirable. So basically, do a very subtle job in the sharpening as well, so that it doesn't become very evident, right? So just a little bit. If you have taken a photograph during low light, like late in the evening, you will anyway automatically have a lot of noise because you have increased your ISO. Then there's a noise reduction tool. But I've noticed some people use it too much, right? So I'll just show you in some of the other photographs I edit how it can be overused. But basically in this shot, we have not done much. We just adjusted slightly on the exposure, but not done much. So then once you're done, you can save it. You can go to export and save the photographs. I'm not going to tell you how to save it and all, but basically this is what I would do. So out of the 5 images here, I choose the one which has the clean light, which is less distracting, which is so you have to learn to be more selective in the images you choose. So I'll give another example. So there's a series of photographs I took of a cheetah here, and it's facing frontwards, right? So out of the 3 shots, we have to decide what is the most captivating image. What would be, if all 3 are different in how the animal is looking, which direction is looking, which one is the most captivating? For me, I would definitely choose the one where it's looking for frontwards like this. So what I do is I select this, then cropping. Now this is a front-facing animal, and you have to eliminate. You look at the top part of this. The sky can be seen, so it's very distracting. So you crop it. If you have enough sharpness, you can actually crop it properly. What I normally would do is I would leave a bit of space at the bottom and position the animal like this. This is one way you can crop it. So there are different ways you can do it. So this is one way you can crop it. Yeah. I heard someone asking something. No? Okay. So this is one way of cropping it, right? I like it because the grass in the front has been blurred out. So that gives a nice effect. Or you can also, if you don't like that, you can go like and crop it like this, where you leave a space at the top. But in this situation, I would recommend that you crop it like this, and you can straighten it as needed. Please off the mic if you're having, if you don't have a question. So, so once I do this, the cropping, then I go to the exposure. It's slightly underexposed, so I increase the exposure a bit, just not too much. If you do too much, you see, it's just becomes a bit too bright. So you do it very subtly, increase a little bit of the contrast, and I don't do much after that because now see the image is already sharp. So I just slightly increase on the micro contrast, the clarity, little bit on the. So always just keep checking, because if you overdo it, it looks odd. Now if I overdo this, now if I look saturation, if I do it like that, it will be too much, right? So you have to always be careful what you do. So saturation, just do it very slightly. See the level I have put +5 and +2, very slightly, because I like to keep the images as natural as possible, and a little bit on the sharpening, but not too much, because if you overdo it also, that's not good, because it looks overdone. Okay. So another thing I've seen now in this cropping, when I talk about cropping, I see a lot of people, they have a lot of room to play around with when you're cropping, but they crop it too tight. They might do it like this. And it's a waste of a photograph if you do that, because it's such a good photograph, it's such a good moment, and you're just cropping it too tight. So always use space. Make sure that you use space which gives a nice effect to the image. So that's what I would do. Maybe straighten it a bit, just align it like that. So I'm very happy with this. I don't overdo it. So secret again is keep it natural as possible. And another thing I see is in photographs where, so let's see, okay. So this is not a perfect example, but basically, like say before cropping, if like somebody's taking a photograph, even if you're in the field and you're taking it, if say the animal is like this, you will see shots where the leg is cut off like this. A shot is like this, or some like like a part which is vital is cut off. So when you're framing the shot, when you're taking the shot itself in the while, try to make sure that you get the entire animal's body in the frame. If you're unable to do that, at least the portraiture like this, so that you can do something out of it, right? So in this example, this is taken in quite some low light. So I'll just show you what I would do. So for me, I would frame it like this using rule of thirds. I would crop it like this. Then for me, I see the photograph is a little bit bluish because the light is a bit low. So I adjust the white balance when I come. I don't adjust the white balance in the field because I shoot on RAW. You're able to adjust it as you go. So this is the way I shot it. You go to white balance. So there are different settings you can use. So you can use. So these are all preset settings which you can use to adjust what they call. It's measured in a terms called Kelvin. So you can select a predetermined one, or you can go manually and just adjust it to be a bit more natural. Don't overdo it, because if you overdo it, it looks artificial. Look at this. So there are a lot of shots I have seen which are published, which it doesn't look natural. So just do it ever so slightly, just to make it natural. But of course, if you're taking in low light, nothing can replace, nothing you do can replace good light. So if you take it in perfect light, that's great for you. But if it's in bad light, of course, there's only a limit what you can do. Okay, so that being said, because it's a bit dark and we see taken at low light, and at the moment I just took it, so you adjust the exposure a bit, contrast a little bit more than I would do in a normal light situation, and keep it as natural as possible. I wouldn't actually even work on with the saturations because it might go a bit off. So just go a little bit on the clarity. It's not very sharp, but so what you can do again in Lightroom, if you want to sharpen just the animal and you want to keep the rest as it is, you have the adjustment brush here. Be very careful when you use it though, because when you click this, you can select some of the settings you want to do. So now the thing is, if you had adjusted something earlier, those same settings will remain when you do it. So be careful when you're doing this. So I just only want to sharpen it slightly, just sharpen the face a little bit. So I just do like that, and then you have to select the size of the brush. So here you go down, you have the size, and you have how much feathering is basically, so like a buffer area. So you can select what you want it to make it more natural. If you have zero feather, you might get caught that you have adjusted it too much. So end of the day, you have to show, even if you're publishing it, you have to show that you have not really done too much work on it. So sorry about that. So I'm just going to sharpen the face a little bit. So I'm going to just use a small brush and just a little bit on the face. That's it, nothing much. And then we're going to click done. So just look at the face. Looks fine. Like so, this is basically what I would leave it as. So I would just save it. And so basically, low light, be mindful on the white balance what you do, because that will. So this is another shot taken in low light. So you can see it's very bluish. And also here, when you're cropping, make sure that you crop out all the distractions. So don't include this in your frame. So try to crop it. You can't get rid of this big tree here, but because the animal is facing you, you can if it's sharp enough, you can use, you can basically center it actually, and you can either leave space like this or do like that. But don't put, don't, when you're framing, don't frame it like this, where there's equal amount here and equal amount on the top. I usually don't put it at the dead, don't frame the animal in the dead center. You just keep it at either at the bottom or at the top half, like that. And then I will adjust the white balance a little bit. So white balance, you can play around with it. If it's low light, you have to adjust it because the shots can be a bit bluish in color. So you just adjust it very slightly. Like that. And so it's already very sharp, but you just go down, you want to, so here, okay, so here you can see there's a bit of noise, right? So you can use, okay, you do a little bit of sharpening just for the face, but then that further increase, this is also a little bit too much, the sharpness for my liking. Do it very slightly, because end of the day, you don't want to show that you're overdone it. So now you see a lot of noise in the background here, right? So to reduce this, you can go down. There's a area called noise reduction. So here the main lever you use is one called luminance. But okay, you do it very slightly. You don't overdo it. If you all have any, like Jayalat has asked a question, any specific ratio when you are cropping? So basically, I think I answered that. Are you clear on that, Jayalat? You can unmute and ask me the question now, if you can. So
what I wanted to know is whether you recommend any ratio, 3 to 4, 16 to 9.
I do it manually.
Okay.
I don't have a specific ratio because each shot is unique. So each shot, how you frame it is completely unique to the situation. So I don't do that. So hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to noise reduction. So like I said, I do it very slightly. Now I've seen a lot of people overdoing it. If you overdo it, you smoothen out everything, but then can you see what happened to the tiger? So it looks like almost like a painting, right? There are a lot of people who do it where it looks very unnatural like this. So you have to be very slight in what you're doing, right? So the noise reduction, just obviously you can't avoid the dots completely. Do it very subtly. For me, okay, this is a little bit too much even now. I rather have the dots than have a very unnatural look. Somebody has kept your mic open. Can you please?
Deepthi, mute your mic.
Please mute the mic because it's disturbing everyone else. Okay, so then basically I want to teach you about noise reduction. So this is what I normally do, but be very careful when you're using this. I see a lot of people overdoing it. So for me, this looks perfectly natural and I'm completely happy with it. And another thing is, remember, like, okay, if there's a branch or something, covering the face, please, I know it may be not the ideal situation to have that distracting you, but don't try too much to remove it using Photoshop, because it's just not part of what wildlife photography is about. And another thing, what I always use space. I don't, like, now for example, even when you're in the field, when you're taking photographs, try not to zoom in fully towards the tiger. Now say if I had gone fully and taken this photograph, it's going to look like this, right? So it'll be like this. But I actually, the Jeep driver tried to get really close to the tiger for me to get a closer shot. I said, no, you wait here, because end of the day, there's a beauty in taking a shot which is wide and which has like this, which you can see, where you can see the habitat and background where the animal is. So, and also when you take a wider shot, you have more chances of playing around with it, because you can do a lot of things with it. If you want a close crop, you can crop it later on, or if you want a wider shot like this, which I prefer, I would adjust it a little bit. And so for me, this is I would choose this over this kind of a frame over a closer crop any day. So always remember, even in the field, you'd be mindful of that. And also here as well, there are several shots you can choose from. So choosing the right one is important. So for me, out of all of these, the one where the tiger is looking straight is the most compelling. So choosing the right shot is also important when you take a series. So be very selective in what you choose. So I would actually prefer this, because the tiger is looking straight at you. Always take shots where the animal looks straight at you, unless there's a special beauty in taking a side view shot. But if the animal is looking at you like this, try to take it. So that's just, I'm not going to go through the whole editing here, because you all know I went through earlier. But basically, I just want to talk about giving space for the animal in cropping the shot or framing it. Another thing I do is now shots like this. So this actually, when I took the shots, this is very like a long time ago, about 2011. This was in Vilpat too, and I was very disappointed, because I was also relatively young to this to the art, and I was very upset that this Tusker didn't come out into the open. So I was very upset, and didn't really think much about it. But then when I went back home, I thought, okay, let me see if I can work around this. So this is a raw image, so the color, the details, everything is already in this. So I thought, okay, firstly, I think maybe the effect of being in the forest is a unique thing. So maybe let's frame it where the animal is somewhat in the middle. The next thing I noticed is that there's a patch of light. Now I talk about patches of light and avoiding it earlier, but in this case, the patch of light has fallen strategically into the eye of the elephant, right? And it was actually, though the shot looks like this, when I really saw it, um, it was a very dark situation. And so to get that mood and effect, I actually reduced the exposure. Now see how the patch of light plays on it, and then you increase the contrast a bit. So it gives a really nice effect, like a mysterious effect, but you don't, obviously that also you don't overdo it. You slightly just increase a little bit on the saturation, not too much. I think saturation, I'll just leave it, because if you do it too much, it looks a bit out of, okay, maybe about a little bit like that. But it's a very subtle adjustment. But the exposure, basically, I underexposed it just to bring out that effect. So this was taken with my old camera. It's not very sharp, but as you can see, the effect compared to what I took earlier. So this is what I'm basically what I did after post processing. I'll just show you what it was before the image here to see the difference. So this brings out so much more effect by what I did. So what are the other images? Okay, so here another image series where there's bit of motion blur, which I tried. This experiment on the field is of course something very technical, and it's a hit or miss. But I took a series of shots, and I realized one of the shots, the head is relatively sharp and in focus. Now this one, so you have to choose which one it is. So when you're at home, opening Lightroom, you have to look in detail like this. You zoom in, you can see it's not focused properly. This one is relatively good, yeah. So it's not going to be pin sharp, because it's a motion blur, but it's relatively sharp. So what I would do is, this was taken at very low light. This is a serval cat taken in Kenya, and I would how I would frame now this shot. I would actually crop it. I don't have a specific, like I said, a specific ratio. I would crop it a little bit long. I would keep it very narrow as well. But of course, as the animal is moving, there's only a limited amount of space in the shot. So I keep that maximum space to give that effect. Now what I do is because this is a motion blur, like a panning shot, I would actually want the head to be slightly sharp. So the rest of the body, I would want to keep it as it is. So what I do is I go to the adjustment brush. I've already set this with a slight increase in sharpness, right? Not too much. And I just brush it a little bit. Don't do it too much, right? See, it's slightly sharpened. Then, of course, because it's low light, I adjust the white balance, give a bit of warmth into the shot, not too much. Okay, about this much will be okay. Increase the exposure because it's very low light. I look at the settings here. If you can see, I took it at f4, 1/20th of a second, ISO 2500. So, and we have to be very fast when we are taking the shot as well. So this is basically, I won't sharpen it any further. This is basically all I'm going to do. Not going to really adjust the saturation or anything because I just feel it's fine the way it is. So I would save it. So basically that covers everything. I think gives you a rough idea how I do it. I just want to give you an example. This is actually, I don't know who the photographer is, but I just saw it on Facebook and I showed it to Hiran. They were saying this is something a lot of photographers do, and I don't want. I like it's something we do. I'll just show you a bad example. Okay, I don't know who the photographer is, so it's it's Indian photographer, but I noticed how badly it was post processed. Just to give an example, just loading. So I also see this using the adjustment brush. People try to adjust the exposure or the brightness only of the animal. So that gives a very artificial look. Still loading. It's taking long. Okay. Okay, so if you can see this photograph, you can see where the photographer has used the adjustment brush and basically increase the brightness or the exposure of only the tiger and leaving the background as dark. So this is something I've seen, like, not, this is maybe extreme example, but sometimes
Rajiv can't see the photo.
you can't see. Okay,
No,
wait, hold on.
you can see your civet cat picture.
Oh,
still on the previous picture.
wait. Can you see now?
Yeah, now it's okay.
Yeah, so you can see how, so this is an extreme example. I don't know who the photographer is. I think the name is there, whoever it is, but it's just an example I want to show how not to post process. So basically, using the adjustment brush, this person has brushed or selected this area, whatever method you can use, Photoshop or whatever, and increase the brightness only of the tiger, leaving the balance dark. This is an extreme no-no for me. Even, you can try, even if the animal is in shadows and you try to increase it, trying to revive it, it's no matter what you do, nothing can replace good natural light. If you do it, most of the time you get, you can easily notice that is overdone. So I've seen a lot of so-called big time photographers also trying to do it, but it just looks really bad. And another thing, doing this, I have seen there's like a edge even above the animal, which some people are manually using the mouse or cursor to do it, and you can see like a edge also a little here you can see it. You can see on the tiger there, this area you can see the edge, so it's really badly done. So this is something, just an example, not to how not to basically post process. So basically that's something I noticed. I just want to enlighten my experience with all of you all. So please do ask any questions right now. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, because it's an open discussion and I like to share your ideas as well.
Hi Rajiv, I'm George. Can I ask you a question, please?
Yeah, please, George.
Rajiv, now before we do post editing on a picture, what is the best camera setting that you would suggest as a Canon user?
What do you mean?
Like,
In
for
the
example, are you using manual focusing?
So this is the thing.
Camera settings.
It's very
like, for example, the ISO.
yeah. So it's very subjective. Once again, a lot of, like, thing is, for wildlife photography, you're dealing with animals who are very fast. You have to be you have to take things very quickly, right? And what I noticed, when I was starting off, I thought, oh, the best thing to do is have full control, do manual, right? But I missed a lot of shots, because by the time you turn the aperture and the shutter speed and get the exposure, everything, the animal is gone, and basically, or you missed a good moment. So thing is, what you have to realize is the DSLRs, Nikon, Sony, or Canon, whatever, they are very sophisticated pieces of equipment, right? So you have to trust the camera to a certain extent also. So what I would suggest is, I would normally play around with the aperture. I play around with the aperture because certain effects you can get only using the aperture, right? So control the aperture and let the control aperture, and the ISO, of course, you adjust it manually, and I let the camera adjust the shutter speed. So basically that's what I do.
Right now, for the ISO, you keep it as auto, or you have a maximum limit?
I don't use auto. I don't use auto ISO, because, for example, I need, like, okay, yes, they let the camera determine the shutter speed, but your actions. It's obviously it's a triangle, right? So ISO, aperture, and shutter speed all are interrelated. So you adjust one thing, your shutter speed is going to be affected. End of the day, ideally, you want a good shutter speed, because you want to get a relatively, unless this is a what you call a panning shot, but generally, any photograph, you would want it to have a good shutter speed relatively. So the standard is, so for example, if you have a 400 millimeter lens, minimum recommended is 1/400th of a second as a shutter speed, if you want to get a sharp shot where you freeze the moment. So to get a good shutter speed, try to work on manual. It depends from camera to camera, because ISO, like, say, really good cameras like the 1DX Mark IIs or the Nikon D4S and all those things, the sensor is very good. So even if you use a very high ISO, you don't get a lot of noise in the background. So but it depends on the camera. So some of the more basic cameras, even if you go beyond 800 ISO, you might end up getting a lot of noise. So I think play around with it manually. That's the main thing I do.
Right. Thank you very much. Very nice.
No problem. Anytime, George. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if any other question, because I'm here to help, and just to make sure that all of us improve, because this is, wildlife is very different from art photography, street photography, even landscapes. Everything is this, each has their own specialities, and wildlife, the key word is subtlety.
Hi Rajiv.
Yes. Hi.
This is Aditya.
Hi, Aditya.
I have two questions. One is, sometimes we see these restrictions on dimensions for competitions specified by pixel sizes or the length on
Shall I show you how to do it?
About that? Yes. Can you explain a bit about
that?
Okay.
Wait. Just minimize this
image.
Okay. So then you go to, so what you do is you go to File. Now there's a so to save it in your computer, you go to export, right? So you click this export. You select wherever the folder you want to save it in. So that's just basic stuff. Then here you can select file settings. So here you want to save it as a JPEG, you save it as JPEG. If you want to limit the file size, you can limit the file size. K means kilobytes, so you limit the file size like that. And then when you want to resize it, you can click the image sizing and you can width and height, you can do what you like. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes. Okay. So whenever that is specified, you have to be within that particular number that is specified.
So you can adjust it when you can have your proper high res version saved separately, but
yeah. The next question I had, Rajiv, was regarding shooting in RAW. And how often would you suggest shooting in RAW, and would you say you should always shoot in RAW?
Because personally, if you do have enough space, okay, the reason why I would say always shoot in RAW is because when you shoot in RAW, a lot of details are saved in that image, right? So if you want to recover, say you've taken it and then it was a bit underexposed or something, where you think, okay, white balance and all those things are not perfect, but you think, okay, maybe I can adjust it when I go back home. Now the thing is, if there are a lot of detail hidden in it, but if you use a JPEG, the more and more you adjust, you can't undo it. The image quality gets, now here if you keep editing, you can always reset it and start fresh, right? There's a lot of depth and detail in a raw image, and that's why the file size is also big. But when you take the raw image then and there, it might look a bit dull compared to JPEG image, because even the settings and all, whatever you take in the camera, when what you call picture mode, portrait or landscape, all those things, when you put it here, it becomes dull. It looks dull and looks flat, but basically there's a lot of detail in it. So I would recommend, if you have good memory card, shoot in RAW.
Okay. Thank you, Rajiv.
No problem.
Hi, Rajiv. This is Laya Alice here. One question.
Hi,
Laya. When you actually doing the white balance, you're using the color temperature. You did not touch the tint. Is there a reason for that?
It depends. I didn't need to touch the tint because I just keep it as it is, because just keep it as natural as possible, because if I overdo it, the tint makes it actually look, I'm not tint
is a very difficult parameter to adjust.
Yeah, that's why you think this. If you think you're going to screw it by doing that, better leave it alone. So I don't touch it too much because of that. So only the temperature, but that also I don't overdo it. Very subtly I do it.
Okay, I have another follow-up question. This is more technical. You are using Lightroom. Are you using it on a laptop, or are you using an online version?
No, I'm using it on the laptop. So if you're buying it, I would actually recommend you use Lightroom Classic. There's two versions available. I think like even now if you're buying it, so there's Lightroom Classic and then they have the Lightroom Cloud or something. I would recommend you use the Classic.
Okay. Well, is there any particular reason for that?
Less complicated, I think. I know the cloud, just how much data can you save on the cloud also, end of the day. I don't know.
That is true. Yeah. It's just that Lightroom is fair. I've used it in the past. It's a fairly heavy piece of
yes, it takes a lot of space. Yeah, it takes a lot of memory also. So another thing is, when you're running Lightroom, ideally best is to keep other programs not running, because it can get jammed, especially if your PC or laptop is not fast enough. It can get jammed. The earlier computers I used to get stuck. So actually I bought a very fast computer because of that. Another thing about Lightroom is, what I like is, now Photoshop, you can't edit RAW, right? I'm not Mr. Marcel. I think you use Photoshop quite often. I'm correct, right? I don't use Photoshop.
Right. Yeah, but I edit RAW.
Yeah. You can't edit. You have to convert it to JPEG and then edit it, right?
Yeah.
No, you can.
the first window, you can just draw.
Yeah, but Photoshop,
Then,
you have to upload one by one also. No? Here, the
yes.
easy thing is you get a nice
Photoshop, you have to
workflow here.
one by one. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so here you have a workflow. So that really helps, because when you're choosing so many, especially if you go on a big trip, you go to Africa or India or you go to Yala or something, and you have a series of photographs. It's very tiresome to one by one do that.
Yeah,
And
true. Yes.
you can just be tuck. You can select and say oh, okay, today I'm going to just do only this one. Just do a few ones like that, and you can finish it lightly. It's very easy. Yeah.
I also found that Lightroom has the best categorization software.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
a good
best library
cataloging.
handling.
Yeah. Selection.
Cataloging part is very good.
Yeah.
So Hiranti, you also use Lightroom? I thought you were using Photoshop.
I use Photoshop. So Rajiv, all what you did in Lightroom can be done in.
Of course. Photoshop is very.
In the raw, I can be heard, right? Yeah. In the raw version of, so when you open the raw file, you go to the raw of the Photoshop. So all what you did, all what you did, Rajiv, can be done in the raw.
Yeah.
And then if you want, you can go into the JPEG and do additional whatever. But the level adjustments and things, all what you did can be done in raw. Very similar steps.
The thing is, Photoshop is for very advanced work, so it's very good. But I think for wildlife, it's very simple. If you just use, for me, this is very basic. So wildlife is all about taking the shot at that moment, So if you have the right shot, the post-processing is almost a breeze. It's very subtle.
I believe Lightroom does not allow layering, right, Rajiv?
No, I don't use the layering.
Yeah, but Photoshop does allow. As you said, Photoshop is for more advanced techniques.
Very advanced, yes.
So Photoshop is for layering and taking images deleting, adding. So for layering only, Photoshop is useful.
That's correct.
Yeah, but if it is basic, so what sometimes what people do, they do the basic editing in RAW and then open it in layers and do the layering and whatever else that is required. If you need to put two layers together and stuff like that in the layering, you open as a JPEG in the layering.
Yes, correct.
So basically,
I personally don't use Lightroom because of its heaviness. I use a Nikon's own Capture NXD.
Yeah, it doesn't matter you can use anything. It's not about the software because some use the Canon RAW. It's about whatever you use. It's about doing subtly. Subtlety is the key.
Yeah. And learning about this software and learning about the camera is extremely critical.
Yeah, and also in the field, how you take the shot is very important. How you frame the shot, like I said, I would, rather give space and do a wider shot, even if you can play around with it later. No, but if you crop it too far, like you frame it, you zoom in so much, you might cut off parts of the animal loss unless you have a prime lens and you have no choice whatsoever. Yeah. If you can leave space, and also very important, if animal is moving, example, to the left, leave space in the left when you're taking. Another thing in settings, this is also not to do with post-processing, but remember when you're photographing bears, dark animals who are black, always underexpose it a bit. Then, because what happens is the camera, basically, if you keep it at the neutral exposure, the rest of the thing can get a bit overexposed. Yeah.
And vice versa if you're photographing white.
Yeah, if you're photographing like a polar bear or something, I don't know, some white animal, just overexpose it a bit.
If you're photographing white, you need to overexpose. If you're photographing black, you need to underexpose. No? Yeah.
Bears are very difficult animals to photograph.
Oh yeah. And then Rajiv, the metering you use is the
spot metering.
You use spot, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I use you take average and put it, what do you call
it?
No, the other one.
Okay.
Matrix. No.
Matrix.
Matrix. Yeah.
Matrix, yeah.
Well, I think if you're taking
Oh.
raw, you can still actually take matrix. It comes out reasonably well, but
Yeah.
spot metering is the best when there's not a lot of light.
Yeah.
But
And
matrix
there is only-
sometimes the branches in front may get sort of focused.
Correct. That's where the problem with matrix is.
So it's spot metering is best, I think, for wildlife. I use spot metering.
Thing is whatever we all like, always we all think about all these things and go to the field. When you go there, sometimes you might panic also.
Yeah. You forget
no,
everything.
no matter how seasoned or experienced you are, it can happen.
That is true.
Yeah.
Rajiv, this is Harshana here.
Yes, Arshana.
Do you have any pictures of birds that you have taken where you can show a couple of birds?
Just some pictures, is it?
Yeah, and yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out this. How to share it. Wait, got a bit stuck suddenly. Okay, wait. You share.
You're sharing, Rajiv.
Oh, no. My screen. So now what can you see? Can you see like put in my
Your Kenya.
folders now? I put that. These like I'm the random collection, so some wait, not all are my like these are not all mine, but okay. So this basically this is a very tricky photograph. Now, ideally, now this shot I have not cropped it, but I have to crop this if I'm publishing it. Because this the side area something is distracting on the side, but basically say for example I'll just
Which one you are pointing out?
Select, you are not selecting.
put that in. Sorry man, this
Sorry for taking
no wait. New share. Okay. Then Haride.
Oh, right.
Right. So this is actually a very tricky shot because the light was, you can like ideally I don't like the background to be very bright, right? Because it distracts from the subject. Now here I selectively actually increased a little bit of the brightness on the owls, but I didn't want to overdo it too much because it can be it can be unnatural. But the thing is, in this setting I can't do much because the background was bright anyway. As whatever angle I took, it was such a rare sight anyway. It was something it's not the perfect or the ideal background, but I just made do with what I could, right? And then can you see me?
Yeah, chestnut black.
Yeah, so this now ideally okay though.
And the owlet.
It was, yeah, so this what some branches blocking it, but thing is, like I said, you have to think on your feet also, because in this situation it was there only for about 2 seconds and the fellow flew off. So
but I'll tell you, preferably I like this photograph because it's like the depth of the wilderness.
Yeah,
the
yes,
bird is right inside the wilderness, so it's nice.
Yeah, the position is superb. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And even the branch in front, it's all right. It can be.
So, but see, the I didn't overdo some of the colors and all. I just keep it as it is,
It's nice.
So you keep it natural as much as possible, isn't it?
Yeah, basically, some might think it's a bit dull, but some of the shots are not mine because one of my colleagues, so we had shared folder. Okay, so this is another one. This is the Sri Lanka bush warbler, a very rare bird in Horton Plains, and just keep it as it is as much as possible.
Yeah, lovely. Background is nice.
Background, yeah.
Very
But
nice.
these are taken at the car park. So,
Oh.
yeah. So basically, like I said, it's about the subtlety of it.
Thanks, Rajiv.
No problem.
So Rajiv, when you edit birds,
It's not mine. Okay.
Okay. Now you use the adjustment brush take sharpness on the face, no? So in
Not all the time.
Okay, so in most of the bird photography, do you do that, or
Depends on
just
the
leave it as it?
all depends on what the shot is.
Yeah,
You know.
okay.
So
It is sharp and.
for example, this shot, right? I'm not going to use adjustment brush only for this. So I want, because the thing is this, in this shot, I want the detail of the tree also. Can you see? Yeah, the bark. So that's why I won't do that. Only specific shots I would do.
So you have not used adjustment brush on the bark. You have, right?
No, I just overall sharpness se keh do mama.
Overall sharpness, right?
Oh.
Okay. Okay. That's the bark textures are beautiful.
Yeah.
Where is this?
It's a nice shot.
Yeah. Singaraja. So I always liked. I'll just show you another shot. This is a leopard shot, but how I take the I like the textures of it. Hold on. Okay. So I just like this photograph because
the texture of the rock.
The rock, yes. So that's also important, when you're taking to take into consideration the textures of the background, and also any person who has been to Africa will tell, wow, Yala looks amazing, because you always boast Yala, say that Yala you get leopards on rocks. You don't get that in other places. So like that. So playing around with the shot, it's up to you, but it depends on your style. Each one has their own style. So, but maintain your unique signature style, but also try different methods. Everything which is close up is not really the best.
Rajiv, when you shoot in RAW, the repeats become slower, no?
Yeah, that depends on how fast your camera is, basically. It's so you have a good camera, like a really fast camera, yeah, your burst is. But then sometimes also I wonder, like when I see, like say the animal is moving and just seated and doing, like some people, if it's a leopard, they just go non-stop shooting. I'm like, what are you shooting? Like, I don't understand sometimes what people are shooting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, what are you shooting? And also be very picky. Now, for example, if you say you have a shot of a leopard like this, right? Then you like, say you go on another trip or something, and I'm very picky on what I take, because I look at this. Okay, I have a better, like, so this I have this shot came, and the other shot is similar in the position or the way it is, but I'm like, I think I have a better shot at home, so I don't even bother taking it. So I'm very selective how I do it. I'm not trigger happy.
Right. Yeah.
Even in Africa, even Kenya. Now that I've been there so many times, I'm very selective what I take. So I just take only what I haven't taken before.
Rajiv, I wonder what happened to spotted zebra. The
fellow must have moved off to the Serengeti side, may have got eaten. We'll see. We might get to know this season. My guys who are there might give an update. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further questions, people?
Sorry, Hiranti, Rajiv, I just came home and
you came very late, no?
Yeah, I got caught in the traffic as usual. Driving back to Morocco takes a long time.
Okay, so yeah, that's the reason I took this meeting from office today.
Oh my gosh, I started a little early but couldn't make it home.
So we've recorded it.
Yeah, please.
Roshan, you can look at it.
Please.
That's great.
Please.
Yeah.
Looks like I missed a good presentation.
Laya, you're not in the wildlife group, are you?
I am not officially, but I do actually come and join you guys because I learned a lot today.
Yeah,
Having been photographing for 40 years, I still learn.
Yeah,
we
you
are all learning, you know, even
Right.
all of us. We are,
just a question: where does one finds these recorded YouTubes or whatever however you
Laya, in the PSSL YouTube. So when you go to the YouTube channel, PSSL has a YouTube channel.
Okay.
So you search for PSSL and all the recordings are there. Even your presentation, the recording should be there.
Lovely. Thank you. No, I don't do it too much wildlife. It's just more, you know, whenever I get a chance, I do it. But it's not the kind of thing that I do on a regular basis.
Okay.
Okay.
But of course, if you are doing it, you know, now you have an idea. Each of these genres have different standards and things we do. You know, so it's good to learn from me. If you're a generalist, what you do for art, like some people like to do a mix of, for example, Hiranti does landscape, does travel photography, plus she will do wildlife. So then you have to play the way you do it in each genre is different.
Yeah, that's true. No, I've been learning a lot actually by coming to these meetings.
Yeah,
good.
Of course.
In fact, I found
the objective is for us to improve, or the objective is for us all to improve together.
Yeah.
And things together. Yeah.
So
fact,
the Zoom, the lockdown and the fact that we had to shift to Zoom helped you, no, Laya?
Absolutely. I think there's something good coming out of everything.
Positives, yes.
In fact, there's another person here who's interested in photography. I'm kind of teaching her. She's a doctor here, and I wanted her to actually join the PSSL because I think this would be a good forum for her to learn.
Yeah. So even going forward, I think what we are thinking is even once we do have, once we can have meetings physically, we still want to continue some of it on Zoom so that the wider network can use it.
That's
definitely, because that's good.
Yeah, otherwise people like us do not have a chance.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about wildlife photography after joining PSS. You know, after all these sessions, you know, each and every session I learned a lot. I mean,
of course,
they have been very, very helpful.
Even like, you know, new styles, you might get new ideas. For example, Harry's presentation actually opened up a view on how some of the different ways to take a new ways of taking. So he's not there today, no?
No, I don't think he's there. He's not there.
You know, we learn from each other, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and then only we realize our mistakes, you know, the mistakes we have made. That is the biggest thing, you know, learn what we have, you know, where we have gone wrong.
Nobody is what you call guru or like a master. We all here to share our knowledge. End of the day, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
And also, photography is very subjective. No? Some people, the way they look at it.
Of course. But then there are universal standards. For example, wildlife, you look at the colors and everything has to be
natural. Wildlife, yes.
Yeah, then the framing of the shot of course, when you look at art photography, it's like sometimes things are like, it's like paintings, you know. Some of the paint, like, you know, you look at this modern art, you're wondering, actually you just put a dot in the middle and say, this is art, you know. So it's very different.
Just to follow up on something that someone actually asked about the ratio of cropping. I think from what I understand from architecture as well as others, the ratio of 2 to 3 gives a good pleasing a frame to work with. I have a feeling that person probably asked because of that. And for the most part, I've been actually keeping my cropping to 2 and 3. But you know, today I saw, especially that the moving
the silver cat.
No, I'll just show you another example. Put that in the. Let me just show you. I wanted to show this to you just to show the different types of frame. Put that in. these folders actually what I use for my itineraries and all for the tourists and all that. So it's all mixed up. So, but I just want to show you. Shot. So even this one, you know, I frame like see it's more rectangular, like it's a longer frame because the subject is also long, right? Like that. Then there's another one. I hear this. So I like these are one of my favorite shots. So this is the way I cropped it basically.
Yeah, because it's a long photograph.
Yeah. So it all depends. It depends from case to case.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah.
So sticking to one probably is not the right thing to do, as I have been doing for the most time.
Play around with it. Play around with it and see what's pleasing to your eye. You can, you know, end of the day, you do what your heart desires. You know, end of the day, I always say, go with your heart.
Correct.
Follow your heart.
Follow your heart. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any further questions? Otherwise, we can.
I also have to run off now. Is there anything? Just message me on WhatsApp or something.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Rajiv. Thank you very much. That was very informative and very
my pleasure.
Very helpful. Very helpful for everyone.
Yeah.
So now, thank you once again, Rajiv.
Okay.
Now, these our meetings will be every third Wednesday. So next meeting will be the third Wednesday in July. But in the meantime, let's think of whether we could do something in between. Ideas are welcome from everybody. Whether we could do something now that since things have opened up a little bit, let's have some ideas and let's see whether we can do anything.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the meeting will be next third Wednesday, whatever that date is.
Yeah.
Everyone okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Rajiv. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay. No worries. See you guys.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye.